Good morning, guys, or good afternoon, whether you're joining me from the present or the future. Welcome back to another FutureFight Vanguard video. Today we're going to be continuing with our V-BT10 set, which is our Phantom Dragon Aeon. I think I said that right. But we're going to be continuing today with our Gaia-Emperor deck, which is going to be our Tachikaze deck coming out of this set. Now, there are a couple variants of Tachikaze, I believe, coming out of this set. It's Ancient Dragons and then the Gaia-Emperor deck. I decided to cover the Gaia-Emperor deck, and I'm not covering the Ancient Dragons deck. But if that's something that you guys are interested in, let me know in the comments down below, and I will think about doing it. So the Gaia-Emperor deck is a deck that still uses the equip gauge mechanic, and it basically focuses on every single rearguard that you have that will have an equip gauge. It gives them, you know, a good amount of power. So it gives them 5k if your opponent is grade 1, 2, or 0 Vanguard, and then it gives you 10k if your opponent's on a grade 3 Vanguard. So really pushes your opponent in when they get to grade 3. Unfortunately, unlike other clans in this set, you have to wait for your opponent to be grade 3. And I feel like that's a little too weak to be on a same stage or a same competitive stage with some of the other decks in this set, especially since a lot of the other decks like Luard, even Gradora, and even Spike Brothers, like none of them have to wait for your opponent to be grade 3 to do what they do. So just the fact that Gaia-Emperor has to wait to get its full 10k to the rearguards, I think is, you know, kind of weak on their part, and it makes them not as much of a contender. But it's still a probably a pretty fun deck nonetheless if you like Tachikaze and it's a deck that you like to play. But we're gonna get right into the video here. If you guys haven't already, be sure to subscribe down below, click the bell button so you don't have to miss any future Cardfight Empire content going forward. Also, be sure to like the video if you like it, comment down below letting me know your thoughts on the video and your build. What is your build for this build like? Me personally, I didn't enjoy building this deck or playing it, so I feel like my build might be kind of meh. But I mean, I feel like my build is still consistent. It's just like I didn't enjoy playing the deck. So definitely let me know your build down below, and so other people can see your opinion as well. Also, be sure to check out that join button next to the subscribe button if you guys want to become a channel member and you guys can read through the perks, and if that's something that you're interested in, you can feel free to join. Also, last but not least, be sure to check out my second channel down below in the description, Let's Plays Animes, if you guys are interested in anime, animation, or video games. But with that being said, let's get right into the deck here today. So starting off with our grade 3s, we have 4 Emperor Dragon Gaia-Emperor. This is a remake card of a G-Series card, of course. If those of you who played G-Series, you know, or G format basically, you know what this card is. Now, the old version of this card focused on retiring cards, and then it gained power and a crit, and then also it would bring cards back from the drop zone after they had been retired. So it's kind of strange because this one doesn't do that at all. But let's talk about its 2 Vanguard abilities. So the first Vanguard ability is on Vanguard Circle. During your turn, all of your rearguards with equip gauge get plus 5,000 power, and then if your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, then they get plus 10,000 power instead of plus 5k. So this is what we were talking about a little bit earlier, a couple minutes ago, about how, you know, they have to wait until their opponent's grade 3 to get, you know, the full like rush effect off of them, and I don't feel like that's necessarily fair since all the other decks in this set can kind of just go off when they hit grade 3. And then also its second ability is relying on that as well, which is when it attacks on Vanguard Circle, you can counterblast 1 and retire rearguard, and this unit gets the original power of the unit retired by this cost until the end of the battle. And then if your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, it gets the original critical as well. So I feel like all in all, this card is pretty weak. I think that either what they deserved is to not have the grade 3 restriction on them, or for the original power of the second skill, they should have just made it power. So it should have just been able to retire rearguard and gain its power, so then it would have been getting like 24k or something ridiculous that would require a PG. But right now, you pretty much only retire 9Ks with this card's ability, so you only make like 34k columns, and that's nothing in today's metagame. So yeah, that's our ace card, which is not so much an ace card, unfortunately. Moving on to our next grade 3 card, we have 2 Slicing Dragon, Terror the Rezo. And so what Terror does is on Vanguard Rearguard Circle when it attacks, we can retire another Rearguard, draw a card, and then if a unit with an equip gauge was retired for cost, then we get to choose one of our opponent's Rearguard and retire it. Just a simplistic grade 3, because we didn't want to just run 4 grade 3s, and there's not really another grade 3 that I want to run. Now you can put an Anger Blader in here. The only reason why I didn't put Anger Blader in here is because I feel like Anger Blader doesn't really synergize with this build a whole lot, because a lot of your units with equip gauges have 1 equip gauge, and that's all you want to have on them, except if you have Sweeper Kanto on the board. That's the only card that wants to have multiple equip gauges for its skill. All of the other ones have 1, so I really didn't put in Anger Blader just because. And also because since it's run at 1, you would barely ever see it, and there's not really a way to search out grade 3s consistently, so that's why I didn't add it in. But you guys can feel free to add 1 Anger Blader in for sure if that is something that you want to do. Moving on to our grade 2s, we have 4 Regiment Dragon Regiodon. So what Regiodon does is it has 2 abilities. The first one is on Vanguard or Rearguard Circle when it attacks. You may put the top card of your deck face down as an equip gauge for one of your Rearguards. So this card can even target itself, which is great because that's how you end up on the Gaia pressure turns. That's how you end up, getting a not only a 24k attacker if this card is on Accel too, but you can also call the equip gauge off of it after it gets retired. So basically that's its second ability, is when it's retired from Rearguard by our card's ability, then we get to call up to 1 card from this unit's equip gauge to Rearguard Circle, and then we may put an equip gauge on that card that we called, and this ability may only be used by a card name with the same card name once per turn. So obviously when you're retiring this card, by your Terror or your Gaia-Emperor, you can use the skill to call out, the equip gauge from it, and then the equip gauge gets a equip gauge as well. Moving on to our next grade 2, we have 4 Zelius Horn Dragon Dilo Fofiro. All these names, I'm murdering them, I know, guys, but we run 4 of this card. This card has 2 abilities. The first one is Vanguard Rearguard. When placed from hand, counterblast 1, draw a card, and then call a card from your hand to Rearguard, and then you may put the top card of your deck face down as an equip gauge for this unit. So this card's really good in combination with Sweeper Karando. If you have this card in the early game, you can definitely set up really well before your opponent gets the grade 3 and can do stuff to this card. You can make it invulnerable to your opponent before they would be able to do that. And then also it allows you to draw a card. So since we run less grade 3s in this deck, drawing that card can be the difference between you having a grade 3 to ride in your hand and not having a grade 3 to ride and having to G-assist. So definitely be careful about that and be aware of that. And then its second skill is when placed from the equip gauge, this unit gets plus 10,000 power until the end of the turn. So if this card happens to be one of the equip gauges that you call off of Regidon being retired or Blue Sprint being retired, then you can call it, and then it'll get plus 10k, and it will get an equip gauge, which means that, if Gaia's on the board and your opponent's grade 3, then they'll be getting plus 10k again. So it's a 29k by itself, 34k if you're on Accel 2, and 39k if you're on Accel 1. So not bad at all as far as numbers. Then we have 3 Clear Out Dragon Sweeper Akaranto. So what Sweeper does is it has 2 Rearguard abilities. The first one is on the Rearguard Circle when it attacks a Vanguard, you may put an equip gauge on this unit from the top of the deck. And then the second ability is this unit gets plus 5k for each of this unit's equip gauges, and if it has 3 or more equip gauges, it cannot be chosen by your opponent's card abilities. So this card pretty much becomes really hard to get rid of for your opponent once it gets 3 equip gauges or more, because it's a 24k base on both players' turns, and then also it can't be targeted by skills. So the more and more it attacks throughout the turns, the more and more it will get more equip gauges, and the bigger it will be, which makes it harder to deal with. But of course, we don't really have access to Anger Blader anymore, or like ways to restand your rear guards. So Sweeper Karanto is just a beat stick in this deck that you pretty much want to attack with last on your turn and just hope that your opponent can't guard it. But it's only one big attack instead of like 2 big attacks per Sweeper. Then for rounding out our grade 2 lineup, we have 2 Ravenous Dragon Megarex. What this card does is Vanguard Rearguard Circle when it attacks a Vanguard, you can retire one of your other Rearguards and draw a card, and then if this unit's on Rearguard Circle, then you can counterblast 1, put an equip gauge on this unit, and then this unit gets plus 5,000 power for each card or each equip gauge that this card has on it. So we don't really use the counterboss part of it, but we do use the draw part of it. It's good to have in the early game, especially if you don't have a grade 3. Just, you know, cycling and drawing and trying to get as much skills as you can. Also in combination with Lassiturex is very, very good as well because it's a +2. Then for moving on to our grade 1s, we have 4 Prison Bird. This is our top 5 grade 3 searcher, which is really, really important in this build because obviously we only run 6 grade 3s with not really a consistent way to get to them. So if you find a Prison Bird and you use it, you can get a grade 3, and that's pretty awesome. But let's talk about its skills. So Vanguard Rearguard for the first skill. If a new unit was put into one of your unit's equip gauges this turn, this unit gets plus 5,000 power. So obviously rewards you for just playing the deck. Can become a 13k attacker, a 13k booster. Really good. And then the second ability is when placed from hand, look at the top 5 cards from your deck. Reveal up to 1 grade 3 card from among them, put it into your hand, and shuffle your deck. And then if you put a card into your hand, you discard a card from your hand. So very, very good all around. And then moving on to our next grade 1, we have 4 full speed Dragon Blue Sprint. So what Blue Sprint does is on Vanguard or Rearguard Circle, when it attacks, you may put a card as an equip gauge on one of your rear guards. So this unit literally has the same exact ability, word for word, as Regiment Dragon Regidon. It's just a grade 1 version of it, so I don't really have to go over it. They kind of have the same uses. And then the next grade 1 that we run is 4 Fierce Claw Dragon Lassiturex. So Lassiturex is when it's placed from hand on the rearguard circle, you can put a equip gauge from the top of your deck into this unit face down. And then when it's retired from rearguard, you can Soul Blast one and return up to 1 card from its equip gauge to its hand. So when you place this card, it automatically gains its own equip gauge, which makes it plus 10k if you are on Gaia Emperor and your opponent's on grade 3. So it can become an 18k booster or attacker on placed. And then when it is retired, from you retiring it, you get to +1 because you get to Soul Blast 1 and add whatever that equip gauge was to your hand. So that's pretty good as well. Then rounding out our grade 1 lineup, our last 2 grade 1s are 2 Light Blade Dragon Thundilopho. So what Thundilopho does is on rearguard circle, rest this unit, choose one of your rearguards, and then you can put the top card of your deck face down as the equip gauge for that unit, or you can choose to move all the equip gauges from one of your rearguards to it. Then you can counterboss 1 and the chosen unit gets plus 5,000 power into the turn. Again, we don't really use the second one because counterboss can be kind of tight in this deck. However, you know, getting a free equip gauge on a unit is not bad ever, pretty much in this deck. Also, you can use in the early game to set up for sweep to get that 3 requirement that we were talking about before, so that you can make your sweep pretty much untouchable. Then for our starter, everyone, 1 Minimum Carno. So Minimum Carno basically just does what every other starter in the game does, which is when rode upon, draw a card, and then if your opponent's Vanguard is grade 1 or greater, put a quick shield ticket into your hand. Again, this deck doesn't really have discarding like that, except for a Prison Bird. So if you go second and you have a Prison Bird, you get a grade 3, definitely discard your quick shield and move about your life. But if not, definitely just discard it for extra shield. And then for our triggers, we run 8 crit, 4 draw, and 4 heal. We're running 3 Black Cannon Tiger, 3 Savage Aggressor, 2 Small Horn Dragon Baby Tops, 4 Archbird, which is our Sentinel Draw Trigger PG, and then 4 Younger Parasound as our heal trigger. So this deck kind of wants to play very aggressive in the early game, and you guys will see that here in the games portion of the video. So for game 1, it looks like we're playing against Asha, Neonectar. So I would say this is kind of a good matchup for us, especially since we're going first. So we get to ride Blue Sprint and we pass. Our opponent rides Diane and attacks. We no guard and we damage check nothing. Then we go for Megarex, and as you guys can see here, we don't have a grade 3 in our hand. So we decide to set up Lassiturex and Megarex here to get as much draw power as possible to try to get us into a grade 3. So we attack with Lassiturex, he blocks it, then we attack with Megarex. Lassiturex skill adds the sweep command onto the hand, and then we attack, and through our drive check, we get our Gaia Emperor. So on the very last chance that we had to gain a card advantage during that turn, we got our grade 3, which is pretty amazing. So then our opponent rides Sylvia and gets a plant token. And then he's deciding placement of the plant token. Then he goes for Maiden of the Sweetberry, and then he gets another plant token, and then goes for Irmisol to counterboss 1, get 5k to the column, and draw a card. And then he moves his plant token up, I guess, in case he gets a trigger. We take both of the Rearguard attack and this card, and then when the token doesn't hit, So then we ride a Gaia Emperor. We call out Regiodon. Yeah, so we call out Regiodon, then we call out Dilo. Dilo uses his skill to counterboss 1, play Sweep. Sweep gets a Equip Gauge. And then we call out Blue Sprint behind Dilo. So then we go into our battle phase. Our Sweep gets 5k because it has an Equip Gauge. So we attack with Regiodon, adding another Equip Gauge to Sweeper to set up that 3 requirement. Then we attack for 17 into our opponent's Vanguard. Then we attack for 12 into our opponent's Vanguard. And we use no skill. So our opponent no guards, we check a heal and we check another heal. So we double heal down to 1 damage. So that's very, very good. And then we attack for 49 to our opponent's Vanguard. And now our Sweeper is a 24k base. So our opponent rides Dream Spinning Ranunculus Asha. And then he uses Sella to get 2 plant tokens, and then uses Antero to add plus 20k to his Vanguard. So he's trying to burst us in this turn, which I knew that wasn't really going to work out for him. So that's pretty much the point that I knew that I won the game. Because the resources that we have in our hand, we just can't possibly die, really. But our opponent uses Dream Spinning Ranunculus to get an Asha Flower Fairy token, and then plays a remaining Asha from hand using the skill to counterboss 1 to get plus 10. So then he attacks us for 53, 3 crit, and we no guard it, and he checks a Asha and a Maiden of Sweet Berries, so we take 3 damage. 1, 2, and 3, no damage checks. And then he attacks with Asha Flower Fairy token, which I told him can't get boosted, or it can, but it won't matter for the power. So we block with 2 heal triggers. And then he attacks 31k to our rear guard, and then we just let it go. We draw for turn, and then we call out a Dilo. Dilo skill counterboss 1, and call out a Regiodon. Regiodon gets an Equip Gauge, which happens to be a crit trigger, by the way. And then all of our rear guards with Equip Gauge get plus 10k. So we attack for 24, he gets no damage trigger. And then we attack a Vanguard using the skill to counterboss 1, and pop the rear guard, and then we call an Equip Gauge with the crit, and then it gets 10k. And so our opponent no guards it because he can't block it anyways. I mean, he could block this attack and depend on taking an attack, but then he would have to block this, and then 6 damage heal anyways here, which I think would have been a better option for him, because these rear guard attacks don't have 2 crit and the Vanguard did. So it was definitely a better option for him to try to take the rear guard circle, but he took the Vanguard circle and died anyways, so it doesn't really matter. Moving on to game 2, we're playing against MLB. Now, I think that this is a terrible matchup, and even as I was playing it, like, I was thinking that it was so terrible, I was like, I didn't know how I could possibly win the matchup, especially because this early game just went so favorable for the Blaster player. So he checks a crit on his turn 1, we take 2 damage, and then he checks top 7, and then he gets a Majesty Lord Blaster, so that's a +1 to his hand. And then we ride into Dilo. We use Dilo's skill to draw 1 and call a card, and we call Blue Sprint and get a Equip Gauge there. So we attack for 17, he no guards, then he gets a draw trigger on defensive, so he draws a card. And then he uses, he plays Liverot to get Blaster Blade. After Blaster Blade, he uses When Line Darkness Intersects to get a Blaster Dark. And then he uses the top 7 skill once again and gets another card, so another +1. And then we ride into Gaia Emperor Dragon, going into Accel 2, drawing us a card. And then we play Blue Sprint to the front row, and we call Regiodon. And then we call a Thundapilo. We use Thundapilo skill to add an Equip Gauge to Regiodon, which happens to be Regiodon as well. And then we attack with Blue Sprint, adding 5k or to it through the Equip Gauge, through Gaia. So we wanted to add as much pressure as we could here, but he hit a damage trigger. So unfortunately, we attack for 20. And then we do check double crit. So our opponent 2 to pass us. Unfortunately, if we all Vanguarded it, we could have ended the game, but we don't do that. That's silly. That would have been wild for me to just randomly do that. I mean, I maybe should have banked on it anyways, though, because this matchup is just so horrid, and I knew that once he got to this next turn, it was going to be super duper hard to try to, kill him. But my opponent attacks with Blaster Blade for 20. We take it. Then our opponent attacks, shoves 2 cards into Soul, and gets 2 Force Markers, which he chooses to put all on the rearguard circle, so that was interesting. We guard with a crit trigger for a 2 to pass, hoping that he does not get it. And he proceeds to check 1 trigger. And then we block the rearguard attack because it has 2 crit. So our hand is not really all that at all. It's not really that great at all, actually. And then we attack for 18 into his 18. He takes it. We attack 24 into his 18. He takes it and hits another damage draw. Which honestly could have been the difference between us winning and losing this game, like now looking at his hand. When I was fighting him, I thought that his hand was like all good amounts of shield, so I thought there was no possible way I could win on that turn. But looking back now, I could see that maybe it would have affected things if he didn't hit that damage draw. And it might have swung things a little bit more in my favor. So then my opponent rides Majesty Lord again, adding the Force Marker to Rearguard, calling Star Call Trumpeter off of Liverot, using Star Call to get back a Majesty Lord and a When Light and Darkness intersects. Then he plays the Majesty Lord Blaster over here. Then he attacks with 2 crit. So we block that for no pass. And then he shoves 2 cards to Soul. And then puts the 1 Force Marker on Vanguard and 1 on Rearguard. And I basically went into this guarding it, thinking that, you know, if he hits a crit, then I lose anyways. But if he hits any other trigger, I don't lose because I just take it. And then he ends up hitting double crit and he attacks us for 68. And we just die because we cannot take that kind of offensive pressure. So again, because I was an Accel deck, like I kind of went into it with the mindset of like my matchup is bad anyways. But yeah, in that scenario, you guys might want to risk the biscuit a little bit more than I did and just play more cards and be more aggressive. But for game 3, we're playing against Harry. Our opponent rides Betty and does the skills of Betty and the starter. We ride Blue Sprint, and our opponent 1 passes us, which we do not get. Our opponent rides into Prana and calls Masquerade Bunny to Rearguard Circle, checking top 5 for a grade 3 and putting the Starry Pop Dragon to Drop Zone, which is a worthwhile trade-off because Starry Pop Dragon can be used from anywhere. So basically we go into Dilo from there, and we play Sweeper, and then we play Regiodon, and we play a Lassiturex, getting an Equip Gauge on it. Then we attack, putting an Equip Gauge to Sweeper. Then we attack for 9, which he 1 passes us again, which we don't get again. And then we attack for 32. But I think that we're at pretty good, advantage so far. So our opponent uses Vanguard with Harry, counterboss 1, and discard the 1. And then he tries to call 3 units. I told him he could only call 2 because I'm only on grade 2. So he decides to call a Flying Peryton, draw a card, and then get 10k to his Vanguard and 10k to his Rearguard. And then he goes for Card Dealer Jacqueline, and I guess he doesn't get any targets, which is extremely unlucky since it's top 7 for so many targets. But he does not get it, so he attacks 30k into our Rearguard, which I actually did not expect that. And since Sweeper is not as important in this build, we just decided to let it go, because at the end of the day, that's pressure off of my Vanguard. So all of the equip gauges on it die, and then we get attacked by Rearguard and then attacked by another Rearguard, and we get 1 counterblast, which is pretty much what we needed to pop off, per se. So then we go for playing Mega Rex, we play Sweeper, we play Regiodon, we check top 5 with Prism Bird, and we don't get a target, then we shuffle. And then we go for the attack with Regiodon here, adding plus 10k to it, so it's 19k. Then we go for attacking with Sweeper for 42. Then we attack with Gaia Emperor, counterblasting 1, and retiring a Rearguard to get 2 crit, basically. And so our opponent takes 2 damage, and as you guys can see, he hit all this damage draw triggers. So I was forced to just end my turn after that. I did, however, use a Mega Rex with Lacerex to get myself a +2. And then my opponent plays Betty, putting a Magia Doll card in the soul, and then plays Nightmare Doll Alice, which is pretty interesting. I've never seen someone run that tech. And then when I saw him check top 5 for a grade 3, and it was Dorian, I was like, what is going on here? Like, he's running so many weird cards for a Harry variant, I feel like. But then he plays over his Flying Peryton and calls out Dorian, I guess so you can plus up the end of the turn, just draw 2. So he attacks for 22 to our Rearguard, uses the skill to call out Prana. And then he attacks Vanguard and gets a heal trigger. Attacks our Rearguard for 19, attacks our Vanguard for 31, then attacks us for 19 again, which we decide to take all that. He puts all those cards in the soul and then draws 2, basically. we write a new Gaia Emperor, and we go for playing Regiodon, playing Sweeper Commando, and playing Prism Bird, knowing that we would put an equip gauge down on this turn and that would be able to hit Vanguard because of that. So we use Thunder Pylo to put an equip gauge on this Regiodon over here, and it is a Dilo, so that is very, very good. So we attack for 14, and we put an equip gauge on the Dilo, or sorry, on the Regiodon. We attack for 13, then 24. Our opponent blocks it. We attack for 24 again with Sweep, and then we attack with Vanguard using Gaia Emperor skill, counter boss 1, and retire, and then we call out a Dilo and also get an equip gauge to it. And then we attack for 34, and he guards for 37, which is a 1 to pass, and we take a critical trigger, putting all the effects through to our Vanguard, and therefore ending the game. Which is funny because he takes 3 crit, and then he decides to just take the damage anyways beyond 6 damage, and he would have like double 6 damage healed if it was like 1 card previous. So that's pretty interesting. I would have been pretty pissed off if that happened to me. But that has been the FutureFight Vanguard video for the Gaia deck. I hope you guys enjoyed the video today. If you guys did, be sure to leave a like on the video, comment down below letting me know your thoughts. Also be sure to click that subscribe button and the bell button so you don't have to miss any future content from us. Also be sure to check out that join button if you're interested in becoming a member, and check out our second channel in the description down below, Let's Plays Animes, if you're interested in anime, animation, or video games. With that being said, this has been Josh Stallworth from Cardfight Empire, and I'll see you guys on the next video. Peace, guys.